Let me say something without offending you, but it might make you a little bit uncomfortable. If you've ever feel like you have to push people to buy, you're doing something completely and utterly wrong. And I want to give you a bit of a breakdown in this video on exactly what I mean by this. When we're talking about sales and selling, the whole point behind it is helping people. And if you feel in a way that you're doing things in the wrong way, if you feel that you're pushing, you're doing it wrong. Now, I'm not here to judge you on the back of this. I'm saying this because it's one of the biggest reasons sales conversations feel long. And I want to break this down a little bit today on here because it's so bloody exhausting. And the problem we've got is that the old school selling taught us that hesitation actually means resistance. That objections, well, that they mean it's pushback, and it's just wrong. So, if you've ever heard someone say to you, oh, they didn't buy, you just didn't make them, like they're doing you a bit of a disservice. We really want to be able to look at this in the right way, and what I want to do today is break down a bit of why this happens and how you can fix it. So many people out there, they focus on we need to explain more, we talk longer, we add urgency, and we try to handle all of these objections. And before we know it, we're spending 2, 3, 4 hours, whether that's on solar, for example, sitting in someone's house or on a phone call, trying to close a deal that should never take that long. And the whole point about this, and this is what probably the uncomfortable truth that most of you need to think about. So I want to break this down in a little bit more detail for you guys today so that you can see for yourself exactly what I mean. Because when the right conversations happen at the right time, people will actually buy faster than you're used to. Now, this isn't because they are rushed. That's because they, not you, they want to. That's because they're not being pushed. They're being guided. And this is the first big shift that I want you guys to understand. Every sales conversation you're ever going to have is do one of two things. Okay. Every time you open your mouth, every conversation you have, every single thing that you ever do is going to be moving around these. You are either increasing or reducing resistance, or you are increasing or reducing flow. Every single time that you speak, it is not a neutral thing. So every word, every action, every bit of your body language, they all have an impact. However big or however small, that varies. But we want to be at the stage that we realize this is what happens. And what most people don't realize they're doing is they're actually increasing resistance and reducing the flow by making simple and avoidable mistakes. And what we want to be able to do is we want to remove resistance and increase the flow of a conversation by removing these points. Even in a 2-minute conversation, that's moving someone in any one of those directions. So, if we think about some of these areas that we're thinking about at the moment, if we think about this, if we've got the resistance, and then we've got the flow. High pressure is increasing the resistance. Sometimes it's done really slowly, sometimes it's quietly, but it's always predictably. And then the prospect becomes guarded. And once they become guarded because you've done this, they start protecting themselves. They stop telling you the truth because they don't trust you. They stop asking questions. And once someone goes into defense, no script, no rebuttal, no clever magical closing line is going to help you save a deal. Now, what we're looking at is modern selling is doing something in a completely different direction. And this is what I want you guys to start thinking about. Let's just say maybe you're doing some things wrong. I spoke about this to someone the other day. If I just say a simple phrase, and this will give you real context. If I say, I never told you to kill them, you hear one thing, right? But if I say, I never told you to kill them, you get a different implication. But if I say, I never told you to kill him, again, it sounds different. I never told you to kill him. So all we've done at that point is change the tonality of one single word. The words were the same. But if that can make such a big difference in that one sentence, imagine how much these old school, out-of-date methods are completely screwing your sales and your business up. The modern selling is about reducing the resistance and increasing the flow. Now, flow is going to feel calm. It's going to feel logical. It's going to feel safe. Flow feels like it actually makes sense. And this is where most people are misunderstanding what selling really is. Selling is not about explaining something harder. Selling isn't about forcing someone down the road where they've got no choice but to say yes. Selling is about change. And it's going to be changing certain areas. That might be changing in someone's beliefs. That might be their, if I could spell, perspective. Because there has to be a shift that happens with people for them to move from an interested party into someone that buys. Now, they might need to change, their belief needs to change, and that might be changing around a number of areas. It might change their belief around the problem itself. It might change the belief around the solution. It might change the belief around the risk. Their belief might change around, it could be the timing. It could be around the level of certainty. And the problem you've got is I can't spell, but secondly, you don't know where their current location is and their current thermometer of interest on each of these areas. And they might need to be at a certain, we talk about the 85 degrees that they need to hit to become a buyer. You don't know where they are on this, and the way you find out is by asking better questions and leaving the door open, not by trapping people. Because when people are trapped, they become fearful and they're not going to want to move forward. And when beliefs don't change, nor does the behavior. And this is why we see such dramatic results when we fix the conversations, not by actually fixing the pressure. And this is what I want you guys to think about today. We regularly see clients now, for example, solar, that will go from 15, 20% close rates. So they're hitting this. And we get them up to, let's say, for example, prime example, I posted about them yesterday, Sheffield Renewables, 63% last month. Now, this was exactly the same product. It was the same team. The leads are pretty much the same, right? The service, the price, all the same. But the conversation was done slightly different. And this is the part that really matters. Whether people are hitting like the 60%, 70%, 80%, it's because they learned, not because they learned how to push, but the people that they were speaking to already wanted to move by the time at the end the conversation had happened. That's the big difference. The people were being proactively assisted in having a change in their beliefs, their perspective, their knowledge and their understanding that helped them want to move forward. Now, this is what becomes even more important if the business sells in those two-stage process of the appointment setting, and then we'd call it just the closing stage. Because if we're at the stage now that we've got this as a process, right? The first conversation is not there to close. I'm writing these as the two stages just because you've got context behind it. But actually, the job here is to reduce resistance, increase the flow, and improve the curiosity and expose to a new idea, plan, belief, process. Because if you wait to expose them to the new to here in the closing stage, this is where the new information has been exposed to them and it becomes a problem. What you need to remember is simply this. I did a TEDx talk, I don't know, 5 years ago. And my conversation around that was if the exposure to knowledge was enough to be successful, then librarians would rule the world. And the point being, just being exposed to knowledge doesn't mean people have absorbed it or implemented it. And what a lot of people are doing is they're trying to expose people to knowledge at the end of a closing point, and because it's new, they're not ready to implement. We want to get it in the early stages of what we're doing. So I want you guys to be thinking about this in a more clear and concise way. How can you, let's say that you could do it better. How could you reduce resistance more? How could you position the problem, the journey, the decision? And if the resistance is high at the end of a stage of the appointment setting, the close stage will always feel heavy. Long appointments are not a good sign of selling. They're usually a sign of unresolved resistance. This is when we hear all the usual stuff like, I need to think about it, I want to wait a bit more, can you leave it with me, send me an email. So let's talk about the delay. Because the delay is probably one of the biggest objections that you guys are facing at the moment. And it's actually probably the most misunderstood. Because what most people treat delay as is it's inaction. But delay isn't inaction. Delay is still a decision. And I want you to think about it like this. I'll give you a quick overview, and this hopefully will make some sense before you. Let's say that we're driving down a road. I know it's a great drawing. What a lot of people are doing, this is the path I'm on, and suddenly there's a little dirt track to the side, and you're trying to get them to turn off of the road onto your new plan. Right? This little dirt track. But what I want you to do is forget about this. And I want you to imagine instead that there's two paths. And a decision is consciously being made either way. And this is the old path with their problems. And this is the new path with what they're missing. And they're going to be making a decision either way. They're either going to be choosing to carry on the path or they're choosing the new path. This is more where we need to get our mindset around. You need to realize that this is a serious part of the conversation because no one is intentionally wanting to actually go off and do this. No one enjoys sitting in a place of decision fatigue. They want to be at the stage that they find a fix, but you haven't given them enough to be able to move forward. And this is why when someone says, I want to wait, what they're really saying is, I'm choosing the familiar route. Not because it's any better. And this is what you guys have to realize with this. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. In every sales conversation, the prospect is standing at the fork of that road. One is carrying on as they were, the same stresses, the same frustrations, the same costs, the same worries sitting in the background. The other path is new. Now that feels unfamiliar. It feels uncertain, but it offers the safety, the security, and the results they're actually looking for. And both plans, both paths require a decision. Choosing not to move forward is still choosing a path. And if you don't help people see the fork clearly, they default to delay. Hopefully this is helping you guys today. This is where modern selling is completely separates itself from the old school selling. Old school selling tries to overcome all these different objections. Modern selling is helping people see the decision. It helps them understand that staying where they are is not neutral. It has consequences. And choosing the new path isn't reckless, it's informed. So I want you to think about this today. Let's talk about certainty for a minute, because that's another huge blocker. So many prospects are hunting for 100% certainty before they buy. right? They want to be absolutely sure before they move forward. But I want to break this down to a bit of a truth, because this is a problem. And I'll explain to you why. 100% certainty. This comes after results. And results come after buying. Not even just buying, after install or whatever it will be. So, here's the problem you've got. People are hunting for 100% certainty, but they're not going to get 100% certainty till after. So what they're hunting for doesn't actually exist. So when people are out there looking for 100% certainty, they are unknowingly working against themselves. And it's not because they're stupid. It's because they are chasing something that doesn't exist at that stage of the journey. And modern selling reframes this really beautifully. It shows people that the real decision isn't between certainty and uncertainty. It's between the familiar pain and the unfamiliar progress. And once people actually truly see this, then what you'll see is you'll see a nice drop in that resistance, because what you've actually given them is a new perspective. So if you're spending hours trying to close these deals, if the objections keep looping, if a prospect delays more than they decide, if selling feels heavier than it should, it's not because you are bad at selling. It's more because your conversations are asking people to decide without helping them to see the decision clearly. This is exactly why we help businesses fix what they don't have done in the right way. We don't teach pressure. We don't teach to manipulate. What we're doing is we're helping you redesign the conversation so that the belief change happens before the close. This is where the conversions rocket. This means your appointments can get better. This means the decisions can happen faster, and the conversations and conversions increase without having force. And because the people you're speaking to already want to move forward, they just need the clarity and permission at the fork of the road to actually make that happen. And once you see the path, they'll want to walk down with it, because the decision actually makes far more sense. So this is the whole point behind this, is to give you an idea that change can happen when you guys change. If you want to find out a bit more about this, tomorrow at 3 p.m, we are hosting a small coaching session, and it's for free, around how you can do that. And it's tuster.co.uk/workshop. And you can just come along. We literally invite 10 people, normally 5 people else will come along as well. And we'll help you guys really overcome this so you can get into 2026 with a flying start. See you soon.